Few words about Euro 2024 before the semi-final stage of the competition. I would like to speak more and most in this video about the Romanian national team because I know so well the Romanian football, the Romanian general sports value, and because I've seen, sadly, very few, close to none, dealt with this subject fair. Most of them, some of them because they didn't want to, I don't understand why, and most of them because they just don't understand the phenomenon. So now, in Romania it was a very big thing that the national football team did at this tournament, which is almost over. Which means passing through the group stage. I'm commenting this because I want, people from other countries to understand a legit point of view, a valid point of view, and to have a better understanding about Romanian football. So first of all, the victory with Romania against Ukraine was, I think, one of the best football matches made by the Romanian football team in all its history, because it's the biggest win at a final tournament. It's only the second win in an European tournament, which is of course marvelous. And nobody predicted that Romania can beat 3-0. Nobody predicted that Romania can beat Ukraine, let alone 3-0. So it was 3-0, a solid performance in terms of in the way the Romania defend its back, in the way in which attacked, shot on the goal. Maybe there were some rumors or some statements said Romania had very less ball possession, and maybe everything went in. I mean, the biggest occasions, but it wasn't necessarily the case. I agree that the Ukrainians made some mistakes, and those mistakes led to especially the first two goals, maybe even the third one. But regardless, Romania played a lot above average, their average, and Nicușor Stanciu and Răzvan Marin shot perfectly on the goal. So then, even though there were some circumstances, there were some, let's say, favorable conditions, the way in which Romania approached that game was marvelous. And that was seen also in the second game against Belgium, about which few spoke like the game with Ukraine. Somehow understandable because it was a loss, but in so many ways not understandable because Romania really performed good in that game, especially considering we are talking about a football country like Belgium, even though without major wins in their history, but far better than Ukraine. Okay, so these two games consolidated in many ways the position of Romania at this tournament. Well, Romania to have 3 points and such a solid game at the beginning of the tournament was not signaled by anything, because Romania couldn't beat Bulgaria and Liechtenstein in friendlies prior to the Euro 2024, and those are two very, very, very weak teams. So that said a lot. In fact, apart from the victory with Ukraine, Romania didn't beat anybody. Why? Nobody expected Romania to perform, and it was like a current of I told you that Romania will succeed. It was, mostly about Romanians, but there were no circumstances of Romania succeeding because Romania had the cheapest valued team overall, cheapest than Georgia, cheapest than Albania. So I'm not necessarily believing in this sort of benchmarks. Transfermarkt.com is not something I'm relying too much, but you need to have something to put everybody together and to make a comparison. So Romania was at the bottom, and I'm saying that Transfermarkt doesn't put the price as well, because from my perspective, Dragushin is overestimated, and so it's Coman and Olaru from FCSB. So these three, Coman, Olaru, and Dragushin, from my perspective, the most expensive, are quite overestimated, and I'll explain why a bit later in the video. So yeah, it was the cheapest team, and in all bookmakers calculation, Romania was only, I think, only Slovakia, Slovenia, Albania, and Georgia were below Romania in terms of chances of succeeding at winning the tournament. Well, the least chances. So it was around 2021 to 20 place 21. So in any way you want to put it, Romania was at the tail of the competition, at the queue. So there were no prospects of expecting anything. Also, if you look at the individual players' performance, you don't see any Romanian football player play at a decent level. The best are Răzvan Marin, who is playing at Empoli, a low Serie A Italian team. It's a fair place for him to play. Also, for Dragushin, Genoa was a better suit than Tottenham, because you saw even Tottenham paid a lot of money, 30 million for him. He doesn't play there as a starter, so it's another question mark there. And also we have, let's say, Mihaela and Man. Maybe Man is a good player at this point, and he plays in the new promoted to Serie A Parma. So basically the best Romanian footballers were at the edge of, let's say, bottom first league in Italy to the promotion in the second. So that is the ideal and the correct benchmark. There is Ratio also, that plays at Rayo Vallecano, a rather modest team in Spain in the first league, but he's not necessarily a starter there, but it's a correct level for him. Apart from these guys, and I'm mentioning them because they were among the best of Romania, and they played much above the expectations, and for sure the match against Ukraine was the best of their life for all players involved on the pitch. There is no comparison to prior matches, because they actually didn't have any to compare to. So for example, the captain Nicușor Stanciu, who was instrumental in the first match, plays at mid-table in Saudi Arabia. He never played at the top level team, apart from, let's say, Slavia Prague. I'm saying Slavia Prague because that was a decent team at that point in time when Stanciu played there. He played at Anderlecht and Sparta Prague also. There weren't teams that you can identify as high standards, because Răzvan Marin also played at Standard Liège. He performed well then. He was bought by some fairly good money, more than 12 million euros by Ajax, but when he played for Ajax, he wasn't the fit of that for that level. So this is why I'm saying Empoli or Cagliari are perfect suits for him, which is fine. It's not a shame, to play like this in Italy. What I want to reinforce here is also that, for example, Dragushin played decent football. I cannot say he's a weak player, but he's not at the level of Tottenham. And this comes because he played with another player, a good player that plays in the Saudi Arabia Championship, and he almost relegated to the second league, which is not necessarily a strong football indicator there in terms of value. But Burka played at the level of Dragushin. Maybe he has more experience. I can understand that. It's for sure this one. But even though Dragushin without Burka in the center of the defense, I don't think he could have made it work. So yeah, this is why I'm saying that Romania is a blend of players that essentially don't play at a higher level. For example, Slovakia has Lobotka, who plays at Napoli, which was the champion of Italy 1 year ago. Now it finished mid-table indeed, but it was. Napoli is still better than Empoli and Cagliari and Parma, of course. Just to give an example, and Lobotka is not a very tall player, not a very strong player, so this doesn't stand on its feet when you say it's okay, it's Romanian, it's more. I'm short, I am very tall, very short, or things like this. So, in terms of value, Romania didn't offer anything below the tournament to breed any expectations, any hopes. So I didn't have. Once you grow up, you understand that you shouldn't support somebody just because he's from your country, she is from your country, but because of the value. Honestly speaking, at this European tournament, I didn't support anybody because I didn't like the football played by, let's say, roughly any team. Because apart from the first two group stage matches, the other ones were very, very close, very, very precautious, and you are watching football because it's a spectacle, because it's a something that relaxes you, not because you need to win or not. And this is why I'm going back to Romania, to the Slovakia game, which I've predicted it will finish in 0-0 or 1-1 at the end of the game with Belgium, and especially after Ukraine beat Slovakia, and which happened 1-1. And I was very disappointed because I understand patriotism, but not at this point, because if you don't know how to write or to read in Romania, you cannot say you're a patriot, for example. And there are many people in this category that say you need to support the national football team. And not only this would be a problem, but the point is that many of them, or most of them, actually almost all of them, didn't point out clearly that even VAR pointed the penalty spot against Slovakia, that wasn't a penalty, because the foul was outside the box for sure. Some said it wasn't that he recovered and then he was fouled, but the Slovakian player was in a certain position, he could not move, so the foul was made outside the box. So it didn't matter anyway, because otherwise Romania would still have scored one goal. The point is that I'm thinking of what would happen if Slovakia would have received that type of penalty kick. Would we still claim it was a penalty? I don't think so, because it was not. And as none spoke about this fraudulent penalty obtained by Romania against Slovakia, but almost none spoke about this, but even less spoke about the gameplay. I think in the 18 minutes when I'm not sure if Raciu pushed slightly, but quite powerfully in the end, an opposite player to the advertisement wall on the side of the pitch, and what would have been a decent fall, a more obvious fall than the ones I will be discussing later on. But nobody commented about that, even though it was a clear foul that should have been whistled by the referee, because it was a dangerous thing to do from what you can see. Now that football match hadn't any history. All four teams finished with 4 points. Romania, by chance, well, not necessarily by chance, but because of the victory with Ukraine 3-0, won the group. In the end, this means practically nothing when you have all the same number of points. When you manage to beat only one opponent, it's essentially not that important. So then we are going to the the 18 finals with the Netherlands. The Netherlands, which, if we are honest, we can say it's the weakest team of the Netherlands that they aligned at the final tournament. So this is when the problem comes in place. Nobody aimed on this to hope that Romania can go through. Of course, Romania had no chances to pass the Netherlands. But the game itself was a one-direction play. So this means the Netherlands had basically attacked all the game, even though they don't have a decent team at this moment. They have a, let's say, transitionary team. They are in the semifinals, but they are not a team to get to the semifinals. So that was a team that Romania could have challenged if Romania would have a value to play. Because in the end, they started well. The first 10 minutes were decent by Romania, but afterwards, nothing could be done. So this is because of the lack of value. And when you speak about the lack of value, you are not speaking, in a bad way. It's just pure mathematics, pure physics, pure reality. Because the point is, you couldn't you don't have the strength to attack, you don't have the speed, you don't have the stamina, you don't have the technique to surprise the opponents, and this combined puts you to play in Asia, not in top European championships, and at the final tournament against the Netherlands doesn't give you any chance. Of course, many people stated that the referee made a lot of mistakes against Romania. Well, they were quite to be expected, but the biggest problem was not any mistake made by the referee, because the one mistake was made when Mihaela started to counterattack, and it was mistakenly whistled fall from Denis Alibek to a Dutch player, which was of course not the case. But I remember a game 2 years ago between Romania and Finland. I've attended. Mihaela had that similar approach, similar sprint with the ball at his foot for 3 or 4 times, and he never did anything with it. So most likely that counterattack wouldn't matter at all. But that was a mistake. When we are talking about the two fouls, the one in which Yanis Hagi crushed his head, and the other, the Vasile Mogoș went out of the field, I don't agree they were fouls. I mean, okay. I don't agree they were red cards, and especially the one to Hagi, it wasn't a foul because the player jumped naturally with, of course, his arms outstretched a bit just to propel himself up to hit the ball with the head, and Hagi jumped somehow below his elbow and hit his elbow. So then I don't think the Dutch player had any fault on that. So it was an unfortunate incident, but a true player has, does see how he jumps when he jumps and what he can hit. So he hit the elbow of the opposite player instead of hitting the ball. So this is what happened. Now, at the end of the first half, a collision between the Dutch player. Sorry, I don't remember his name right now. I don't want to make a confusion, so I know who's the player, but I don't remember his name. Anyway, so Vasile Mogoș was, let's say, hit, a collision between the two, which put out of the pitch Vasile Mogoș for the rest of the game. In that circumstance, I think a yellow card might have been, and a free kick might have been awarded indeed, but no red card, because it was a body crush. And even though that Dutch player was maybe more powerful, if you are a professional football player that plays at a European tournament for your country you are not allowed to be that, moist when you get hit, because football is a contact sport, so then you need to be a bit more vigorous. So unfortunately, my impression was, because he didn't go to the ambulance. If Vasile Mogoș would have gone to the ambulance, then I would suspect he was quite severe. I think he got afraid about that incident, and he felt that the Dutch players are very strong, which of course is the case. So this is when lack of value is stepping in, because also the power of a player, the force of him, the way in which he's built, compose the certain level of value you have. So that was not something to put on the shoulders of the referee, because he could have shown a yellow card and a free kick, but it was at the middle of the field, and the problem was not at the referee, not the fault. The problem was how the Romanian football player interpret the fall. So he should have been stronger. And yeah, this is built in years. This is built in during the level at which you play and so on. So essentially, I was very upset because I saw Romanians thought that the referee was the one to blame for that. Not by far. I mean, the game was one-sided. Romania had only 10 minutes of decent football. Denis Man, one of the best players of the Romania at the final tournament, had a good shot in the first minutes, but afterwards Romania essentially didn't exist on the pitch. So it was maybe the biggest disproportion between two teams in the knockout stages. Maybe a similar game was Spain with Georgia, but at least Spain plays a better football than Netherlands. This is something we can agree for sure. Spain doesn't have a team at the level of the one from 14 years ago, 12 years ago, but surely has a much better team, has a far better team than the Netherlands. So it doesn't support any comparison. So even though Georgia lost, similar to Romania, I think the games were maybe these were the biggest disproportionate games at the final tournament. So yeah, this is what I wanted to add, and I just wanted to say it's not a thing to be proud of. Romania didn't do anything in particular. If you know, to be proud of a specific team is you go to win the final or at least be eliminated dramatically in the semifinals, such things. And Romania was never even close to doing that. It's a fact. I'm not saying this with let's say to upset anybody. I just want to say the truth because I saw that the Romanian journalists try to to squeeze something out of a team that doesn't exist, because Romania, the same national team, relegated from Division B of Europe Nations League, which was, I think, was below. They lost against Montenegro, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Finland, three teams that basically don't exist on the European landscape. And in the preliminaries, they had a lot of luck with Kosovo in both games, with Switzerland. It's also with Israel in the first games with those. So if you are correct, you are analyzing the numbers, you are analyzing the game, the value of each player, you can draw a conclusion that what it happened to this tournament was something good, something far above the means of Romanian players, but it's not to be considered a miracle, because in the end you had a group with two teams similar in value. Okay, Ukraine is better, I agree on that, but Ukraine is in war for 3 years almost. So okay, people say that the footballers, the players don't care too much about the war themselves. This can be true, but I'm sure it's not that comfortable to be from a country that is grinded by war. You might have a lot of relatives or a lot of friends that are there. Some of them might be dead, some of them might be, vanished, some of them might be hurt. Your childhood town might be affected, whatever the reason. Ukraine comes, a country like goes through what goes Ukraine couldn't be, at top form in any regard. So this is very important, because also in the preliminary round, Romania plays against Belarus and Israel, mostly two countries that don't play at home the games. So there are advantages about which we are not talking at any time. So we saw when we played against Belgium and the Netherlands, literally Romania didn't have any chance. Maybe with the Belgium they played better than the Netherlands, but Belgium is not a huge team also. And if you had a fraction of the value promoted in the Romanian press, of course you couldn't have anything against obtaining 1 point at least against Belgium, let alone beating them. So yeah, this is it. And I'm pretty sure that if the final game with Slovakia wouldn't have been so relaxed, I guess Romania, if they would have tried to win that game, as I would wish, the risk for them indeed to lose the game against Slovakia was high. It was more likely to lose than to win, indeed. But at least you prove that you want to play football. So that, from my perspective, was much more important. Even they missed the qualification. Then you qualify, you play against the Netherlands, and you had no chance. Slovakia is a more stubborn team. They challenged a lot England. They beat Belgium, which it's not Ukraine. Of course, they lost to Ukraine, but when you beat Belgium and need to put Bellingham in the position to equalize in the last second with a bicycle kick, then you have more consistency to prove, more things to prove than a team like it was ours. Now, the problem I see is that from this tournament, the level of arrogance of the players will be so high, and they won't, let's say, realize that this can be leveraged in their interest, at least some of them, to get a better position in their career. So, for example, the goalkeeper was marvelous, Florin Nița. Was a great goalkeeper. I've mentioned all the three of the defenders, Raciu, Mogoș, Drăgușin and Burcă. They played very good. Răzvan Marin played very good. Man, in my opinion, played very good. Nicușor Stanciu was in the first game a decent player. Afterwards, he quite disappeared. But apart from these guys, there was no outstanding performance. And you see each of them where he's playing. So then, yeah, this is what I want to mention, that it's no miracle, it's not a performance. We are waiting to see now what will happen in the preliminaries for the World Cup, and especially in the Group C of the Nations League, because that will be a benchmark for Romania. I think there are 4 teams. Romania normally should win all games, or at least 4, 2 draws, or 4 victories, 1 draw, and maybe 1 loss, because they have Cyprus, Kosovo, and I don't remember the other one, Lithuania, which are essentially teams that should not put you at any problem. But we will see. Now, what I'm to resume, I will talk maybe after the final tournament about the rest of the teams. I wanted to conclude about Romania's position, and to let's say speak my disappointment that this performance in the end was not dealt with too objective, because in the end the press should do this and should talk about a sports performance as it is, not as they would see it, and they think that Romania now is a wonderful team. Because if it would have been a wonderful team, then it would be the other way around. They would have beat 3-0 the Netherlands and maybe put out Turkey and maybe now be in the semifinals. So that would have been a far better approach, and then nobody would have anything to add, because I've made some calculations. I'll publish them on my websites after the Euro will be done. So essentially in the last 30 years, so I took the 30 years benchmark, because a lot of countries dissolved after the 90s, and we have more or less the benchmark from the actual landscape of European football. So Romania is, from the results they have at the European and World Cups, European Championships and World Cups, Romania is 20th, number 20 team in Europe, which is not a big performance, because Romania in terms of population is the 10th, and Russia now is out, so it could be, let's say, on the 10th spot. So in terms of population, in terms of let's say opportunities, Romania stands far better comparing to other countries. And below Romania in this calculus are Slovenia, are Serbia and Montenegro, for example, are North Macedonia. Of course, I'm mentioning these nations because these were part of Yugoslavia, and you will see Yugoslavia had a lot of performance, a lot of trophies won at European level, semi-finals, finals, so they were far better in the history. Exactly like Poland, because Poland had 2 third place at the World Cup. Well, Romania was not even near a third place. So then, even though Poland in this benchmark is below, let alone Hungary, who played 2 World Cup finals also, and in the European Championship, I think they were in 2 semifinals or something like this. So the performance is the difference between Romania and the other European countries is higher. I mean, in the last 40 years is decent. It's better than Hungary, than Serbia and Montenegro, for example. Well, I've considered them because at some point they were a country, a single country. It's better than Poland. They are better than who else? Slovakia, but let's not forget Slovakia was part of Czechoslovakia, which was also twice World Cup finalist, once European champion, and so on. So this is very important to mention, that some teams are below Romania, but they were part of bigger countries and with players from their landscape contributed to that trophy at a point in time. So it's relevant for the last 30 years, but on the whole landscape of football level, Romania doesn't stay that good. I mean, the only countries over which Romania has better performance are Ireland, but Ireland, with one mention that Ireland had also qualified for 1/4 final in the World Cup, and exactly when they put out Romania at penalties. So that is not in the advantage of Romania. Then we have maybe Norway, Finland, Northern Ireland, which was also quarterfinalist in '58, indeed. But generally speaking, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Finland, and Norway, I think they are the only countries significantly below Romania in overall performance. But that happens also because of their small population, their small interest in football. For example, you can imagine Norway and Finland are not that interested. Okay, so Scotland and Northern Ireland might be, but Scotland had a lot of tournaments in a row, World Cups in a row, and the World Cup had 16 teams, not 24, not 32. They didn't manage to go outside the group stage. So yeah, these are roughly the only teams in Europe that Romania passes in terms of overall performance. And of course Bulgaria, but Bulgaria, not forget that in '94 when Romania had the quarterfinals, Bulgaria had a semi-final. They lost to Italy, of course. They lost the small final, the little final against Sweden 4-0, but still they reached the semi-final. Romania never did it. So once I put all this puzzle together, what I want to mention is that for Romania, Romania is not a team to expect of performance, because they don't have the players, the history doesn't allow you to hope for this, because it never happened, and the football is getting thicker and thicker, and the generation in the 90s was indeed, even though it's a let's say harsh thing to say, a golden generation, because yeah, come on, it's a golden generation is the one who wins anything, but it was a far better generation than this one. So this one, it may be a decent generation, might be a decent generation to qualify for tournaments where almost all the teams have access to, half in Europe, for example, but that is not really a performance, because if you put the football at its place in each country, then you see that Romania is actually performing very very bad. Because if you consider where all the players from all countries, including Albania or Georgia, are playing, and you see Romanian players you don't have only Drăgușina Tottenham, who plays very little, and Horatiu Moldovan at Atletico Madrid, but who is a goalkeeper that couldn't make it, not even a Copa del Rey match. So this says a lot about the overall value in terms of football from Romania against the global landscape. The only problem is to not be so jumpy about this, is that the overall football is very poor. So France, for example, got to semifinals without scoring a single goal from a play, from the open play, from something built by them. They don't have the capacity to do so. Mbappe is out of form. So you saw the Netherlands in very poor condition, beaten severely by Austria in the group stage, and you also see England, which even has decent players, in terms of name and in terms of style of play, they are not that coherent in offering football. They struggled a lot with Slovakia, with Switzerland, not to mention Italy, which from my perspective it is even weaker than Romania. But the problem is that Italy, well, or the opportunities that Italy has, the tradition, has the history on itself, and has, you know, that aura still of a mighty team. But it is not in reality. So football is not on the right path. It's a very I think they're the last peak years of the commercial sports, because it's too commercial for what it offers. Because in the end, you pay money, the supporters, the people around the world support this because of their passion, but people want to see football, not 0-0 and win at penalties, which is mostly happening. So from my perspective, a guy who watched thousands of football games, I don't like to watch them anymore. I'm not interested in any games, or close to none, close to zero, because exactly of this reason. Football is not played to be, you know, to be entertaining. It's played just to go to the spot and then at the lottery. I could invest the money, instead of going to a football match, to the lottery, and I would play there and try to win. This is the same thing. I don't want, you know, to stay in front of a TV to see a 0-0 after 135 minutes total, and then you go to the penalty spots where, you know, I see 10 players that execute poorly, but some of them execute less poorly than the others, and they will qualify. Like, for example, it happened to France. What would have happened to Portugal, because Portugal was almost about to be eliminated by Slovenia, which didn't win a single game at the European Championship. So more about the rest of the teams after the final. I'm curious who will win. Normally, as how the game is played, it should be Spain. But Spain won everything by now, so most likely it won't be Spain. I'm guessing maybe a final between France and England will be biggest chance to happen. So I'm curious if France will manage to, in the end, score a goal. We will see. This is my comments, and we will catch up next week. Bye.